Hey, what's up, guys? This is Anthony again with How It Is, and I'm just doing a little help you video for people who've got an O2 PT Cruiser and they're got mechanical issues. And this is just a little quick one over. If your car is cranking but not starting, if it's cranking, it's going trying to start the engine, but it's not turning over, this video is for you. So we're gonna start with the simple things first, because my first year teacher in AC school, he's a mechanic of sorts, and he always said it's the stupid small little things that'll always get you, and that's usually what it is. So what we've got here is your fuse box in your engine bay, and what I'm going to show you here is the 80 ASD relay, auto shutdown relay. If this is bad, your car will crank and it won't start. Okay, this is your horn relay. If you want to check to see if it's an ASD relay preventing your car from starting, you pull the horn relay out, pull this ASD relay out, and switch them. All right, car should turn over. If you want to check this relay, you just simply put it inside of the horn relay spot and see if your horn beeps. If your horn doesn't beep, you got a bad ASD relay. That's assuming that your horn beeped before with the existing relay in there. Another thing, obviously, starter relay. Replace your horn relay with your starter relay. If your car starts at that point, you know you got a bad starter relay. Okay, and same thing going down the list. Check your fuses. Always check your fuses. Check them twice. All right. So could be something as simple as that. I know that if you've got a key ignition issue, where the actuator pin inside your key ignition inside the car, if that actuator pin is broken or stuck or anything like that, and it's not telling the car to start, what you do is you jump your starter relay right there. There's two numbers in there. I think it's 37 and 84. There's another YouTube video on that. Anyway, if your ignition pin is failing inside the car, there is a way to start it, and you just jump that starter relay. Okay, that'll get you started and running. And then what you need to do is actually fix the fucking problem in the steering column versus just creating a jump switch, which is what I did for my girlfriend's car, which caused the ASD relay to short out, and I had to fix it the right way. And replace the relay. So do it right the first time, guys. No cheap fixes, except for that JB weld, but we'll get to that in a second. So always check your fuses. Like I said, switch out the ASD relay for the horn relay, or the starter relay for the horn relay, because they're all the same relay, just in different spots. Just switch them out and see if your car will start. So next thing I want to go to is this is a PCV valve. Okay, it's just a hose that connects straight up to there where the other gray spot is. And if this is clogged, this will make your car shut down. Okay, so what happened here is it broke off, and I tried to take it out with an easy out, and it cracked this whole valve cover. And I can go replacing a valve cover for 60 bucks or go to a junkyard, try to find one, but it's a small crack. I put some JB weld on it. If you're going to do something like that, make sure that this valve cover is tightened down all the way before you apply the JB weld. When you do apply the JB weld, make sure you don't shove it into the crack and get it inside of your engine block, because JB weld versus 20-year-old 4-cylinder Chrysler engine, I don't want to see that fight. So this is a camshaft sensor. Okay, this can cause your car to crank and not start. All right, so what this is the sensor right where that red clip is. You undo that clip and you pull the 3-prong wiring harness out. And when you pull that 3-prong wiring harness out, you're going to need a multimeter to check, see if you've got power coming from the computer. So if you have power coming from the computer, you would see 10 to 12 volts coming from one prong. And then when you try to turn the key, when you turn the key to the on position without starting your car, you'll have 10 to 12 volts coming from the wiring harness. And then when you try to crank the car and the car is trying to start, you should have 5 volts going to ground. Okay, there's another video. Somebody else already made one. If you've checked your ASD relay, this is one thing that I'm telling you now. Look at it. Like I said, all you do is you take that wiring harness off. You should have 10 volts when the car is on. And once you find out which one has 10 volts, you know that the other two are your signal wire and your ground wire. and then you put your multimeter to the signal spot and the ground spot, whichever spot isn't 10 volts, and you try to start the car. You should have 5 volts reading on your meter. If you don't, you've got a computer problem, bad wiring, you've got, you know, a fucking death sentence. So we're gonna move on. There is also that's your cam sensor. There's a crank sensor, a crankshaft sensor down below the starter, I believe. Functions the exact same way as that sensor. Okay, same thing, same diagnostics. If you think that might be a problem, that'll cause the same issues as well. It's the same exact thing, basically. All right, we're gonna move on to spark. If you've got no spark coming, here's how you find out if you got spark, guys. So this is your ignition coil back here. All right, this is a wire connecting to your ignition coil. This is a wire connecting to your ignition coil. Okay, it's got 2 legs coming out on the left side, 2 legs on the opposite side over there. So if you want to check, see if you got spark, you pull this wire. I'm sorry, hold on, let me explain a little bit more. This wire is connected directly to this spark plug. This is boot for your spark plug. Spark plug is inside of there. Okay, so first thing you do if you want to check to see if you have spark is you pull this boot out. This rubber boot comes right out. Okay, I can pull it all the way out right now, but it's pulled out. You pull it all the way out, and what you do is you take a spare spark plug that you know is good, and you put it inside of this boot at the end down there. Okay, let me pull it out so you guys full understanding. So your spark plug's inside of that hole. This is your rubber boot for your spark plug. If you want to check to see if you've got spark, put a spark plug in this end with the spark side facing out. Okay, and then you get a some battery jumping cables, and you connect the black side to the metal piece of the spark plug that you're going to put right here. Okay, spark plug that goes in here. Take your black battery cable, connect it to that spark plug. Take the other black battery cable on the other side, connect it to your terminal, your black grounded terminal. Okay, then you try to crank the car. You should see a spark coming out of here. Be careful, you'll get zapped. All right, so but that'll tell you if you have spark. If you don't have spark, I'll show you. If you don't have spark, it could be a bad camshaft sensor, a crankshaft sensor. It could be a bad ignition coil. Could be a bad ASD relay. Could be all those things will stop the car from sparking. So this is your ignition coil that connects your spark plug. This is the wire for your spark plug, and it connects right to this ignition coil right here. So what you want to do is take this spark plug wire off and this spark plug wire off. Okay, 1 and 2. My finger's right in between them, and you're going to check the resistance with a multimeter. You should have about 12,000 ohms of resistance, depending on what car you're working on. 8,000, 10,000, 12,000. Take a look at it. Look it up. All right. But check your resistance in between here. That's your secondary winding. Okay. What this is a step-up transformer, and what that means is it takes 12 volts and turns it into 12,000 or 1,000 volts. Okay. So you should have a high resistance here. All right. Now this is for a spark plug. I think 1 and 4. Who knows? On the other side of the ignition coil, it looks just like this on the other side. 1, 2, and then it's covered by this intake manifold. There's 3 and 4 right there on those. You want to check those 2 pins as well. You should have 12,000 ohms of resistance. All right. Connecting to this ignition coil back here, same thing I've been telling you about the whole time. It's just hard to fucking reach. This thing connected to that ignition coil is a wiring harness, 3-prong wiring harness. Same thing as your sensor. One of them is going to feed 10 volts, 12 volts to the ignition coil when the key is on. The other 2 wiring prongs are a ground and a 5-volt signal wire. When you connect your multimeter prongs to the 2 prongs that are not your 10 and 12 volt signal, you should have 5 volts when cranking the key. I'm going to say that again. You got 3 prongs, 3-prong wiring harness feeding your ignition coil. Okay? One of those 3 prongs is going to be 10 to 12 volts when the key is in the on position. The other 2 prongs coming from the wiring harness are your 5-volt signal wire and your ground. You're going to take your multimeter with DC current on, checking the voltage between ground and your 5-volt signal wire when the key is cranking. Okay, you should have 5 volts going to it. All right, that's telling the ignition coil to fire up and do its thing. Okay, if you don't have that, you have a computer issue, wiring issue, death sentence, as I said before. Also, if you look at the 3 prongs that the wiring harness connects to on that ignition coil, that's your primary windings. I believe you should have 0.75 of an ohm or 1 ohm of resistance at that ignition coil. If you don't, it could be burnt. I don't know, look into it. But there's your diagnostics for if it cranks and doesn't start. My dad said it could be one of the 3 things. It's fuel, air, or spark. That's 3 things it takes to get the engine started. So I hope this helped you guys. If it didn't, just leave me a few comments. I'll delete it, but I'm sure it's going to help somebody. Got any questions in the comments, just put them down. Take care, guys. Stay in school.